Oh, what's up, HP Stats team? We got Jaden and Lindsay here. I don't know if you wanted me to say y'all's names. Sorry. I should have asked you. But we are live, so can't go back on that one. But we are going to go through some of our summer stuff, specifically the calculator stuff. Just a heads up in case you're stressed. Hopefully you're not. But the summer work will be due the Monday after the retreat. In case you did have some last-minute questions, you could come in, get those answered on Friday morning, the week right before. So just a heads up on that. We're going to get started and go through some questions, and then I'll send this out. All right. So we want to go over any specific activities. So then we can start wherever. The histogram one? Yeah. Okay. So it says, and then it just says, enter the following test scores into a list named score, right? And create. Now, here's the deal. I'm not big on you having to actually go in and put score on the top. That's not really a big deal. You could. It's good to kind of know that you could do that in case you do stuff in college. For me, I just keep it as L1, okay? One thing, too, that helps just for me, if you go and you've got a list, go to the top of L1, and when you press clear and you come back down, it clears out everything, and that way you don't have to mess with not having enough or going back and deleting individual stuff. So then I'm guessing you put in all of the individual things, right? Is that right? So I'm gonna follow through that real quick. Put them in and we'll follow here together. 5, 2. While I'm putting these in, what specifically did you get kind of hung up on?
I don't know. I followed like everything that it said, and like I did like exactly what the examples were doing, and every time I did it, was in here. Oh, one of your things says 7.
Oh, thank you. That would be me. I would do something like that. So I got you all. I did 7, 7. There you are. Just didn't want to go through. 66, 65, 63, 60, 59, 55, and 50. Okay. And I messed up on one right here. This would be 60. I gotta love it. And 59. Okay. So as you plug this in, we did that, right? And so then once we do this, you remember a lot of times like you can graph, right? And if you go into y equals, you'll notice that you may have something in here. Like this was from my pre-calculus class. Just make sure when you push y equals that there's nothing there. So just clear that real quick. Make sure that there's nothing on that side. Okay. After that, you're going to go to second y equals. And did you on here put plot 1, making sure that plot 1 was on?
Yeah.
You did do that? Okay. So you went there, made sure that that is on. You probably then went over to histogram, which is the third one, making sure that you're highlighting that one, right? Making sure the X list is your L1 and your frequency is 1. And basically your frequency is like your y-axis of how it counts. It counts up there. All right. And then what'd you do next? I'm curious. Did you just hit graph? Is that what we did? Let's see what we did here. Let's see if it shows up.
Oh, well, actually, I went to window to like change that stuff.
Yeah, so you try to change all that, right? Have you noticed it's kind of hard, right? Because you're trying to fit, because if you press graph right now, that's what you see. It doesn't look like anything, right? And if you go to window, it's possible to actually get it within the window, but it could take you forever. So one cool thing about stats, a lot of times, I don't know if you've ever used the zoom function in like other algebra classes. A lot of times you can use all of these, and sometimes there's not a given cookie cutter way of doing it. For stats traditionally, it's not all the time, but traditionally you're going to go to zoom stat, which is number 9. And when you do that, let's see what we get here. And that's when you see where the histogram is, and you're able to kind of look at it and see it there. Does that make sense? If you did want to back up from that, because that's kind of close, I can't really see a whole lot, I could just go to zoom out and then press enter right here. Let's see if it, perfect. So I'm able to see a little bit more of, okay, I start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here, whatever that scale is, right? Because obviously it wasn't 6 because we were talking about 50s and 60s and that sort of thing, right? I'm guessing these are by 10. I could be wrong, but I'm guessing they're by 10. And that's the frequency with the amount of times that you see it there. And that's kind of how you approach it. Does that make sense? I think that's good. So anytime you put something in like data, traditionally with stats, the good thing is that there's no guesswork really. It's almost always new stat. You just plug it in. Cool. Was that it right there? I think we went through pretty much that first part.
What is the frequencies like?
Frequency is the amount of times that it occurs.
Yeah, I have different numbers than you do up there, but they're kind of close. So I just wait. What is your window?
What numbers again?
Like the x equals and y equals.
Oh, that's okay, because as you can see, this is the cursor, and I can adjust the cursor. The cursor's not on the graph. I'm just all over the place. That makes sense. Yeah, go ahead, Lindsay.
So yeah, why are windows different?
Windows could be different a little bit because it depends upon the zoom. As long as you can see it, it doesn't. Your windows, all 3 of ours will be different, and that's absolutely okay.
So like this, for the width, don't you like put it in under like XCL or whatever? And it says right here, set X scale like 10. So do I just like write 10?
So now, okay, so what this is doing, okay, so what we did was example 1, okay? Example 2 is just a little bit different, okay? And Lindsay, do you want me to help you with example 1, make sure we're good there? And check your, maybe did you input them wrong, just wrong a little bit?
No, I just read, I had this already in it, and then I just put this just to make sure.
Your X list is L5, right?
Yeah.
Could we go into the X list and just go straight, oh, that is L5.
It's the same as this, but I had this already, but I just re-entered it just to make sure.
And look at yours real quick, just want to make sure. Sometimes it's frequency there. Because you had 2 in there, I'm wondering. Yeah, that does look different, doesn't it? Zoom out real quick. Let's see what we got. You want to just double check to make sure our scores are the same? Is that cool?
Or what?
Just the scores that you put in were the same? Because you did it exactly right in terms of the way you executed it. So you have 2 100s, right?
Yes.
98, 95, 92, 88, 85, 84, 84, 81, 80, 77, 75, 72, 70, 70, 66, 65, 63, 60, 55, 59, and that's it. Did I skip one or?
I have a 50. Yeah, I have a 52.
Oh, you got, is there a 50 on there?
Yes.
Mess that up. Throw myself off here. You're right. I messed up. That's why yours looks different. Let's see what happens when I put it in. Does that look similar to yours? That looks a little better, right?
No, mine was.
No. Steph. That doesn't look the same.
I don't know. No, mine is like that.
Yeah. Oh no, that doesn't. Am I getting these wrong? It could be me, y'all. Do this. Check each other's. Are y'all's the same? If y'all's are the same, then I'm.
No, they're not. Her middle three are like the same height.
We make 100%. I mean, we did it good. We're good here.
Wait, is this what it looks like?
See, this is what I've got. I've got.
Wait, yeah, now you two.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what did you do? I did Zoom Stack. I didn't. Mine still won't be the same. Oh wait, yeah. No, I did it.
Are we good?
Okay, yeah.
It was maybe perspective, right?
Maybe, yeah. When I did Zoom Stack.
And when we click graph, it's not the same. Zoom Stack.
Here's the deal. Don't get stressed on this because it's hardly ever that you're going to be on an AP exam and you're going to have to, like I would do a histogram by hand. You know, if they asked to do it, like because y'all did that, right? Like you did one of those histograms, I think on the quiz or something. It's much easier to do that. I'm just making sure you know how to put in lists, the Zoom stat thing, stuff like that. So if you understand that, that's good. But we're on this, I think we're all on the same page, right? The second one that we're going to go into is this idea of how the frequency was 1 each time. We're going to change that up just a little bit. And this time we're going to go to edit, and I want you to clear that list L1 off. And on L1, we're going to put 105. So these are all the data points here. 95, 85, 75. And I think, Lindsay, you had a great question. What is like frequency, I think you asked? Frequency is just the amount of times it occurs, right? And what we're going to do is instead of having a frequency of 1, because all those other scores were just 1 for each, we're going to say that each of these occurred a different amount of time. So we have our scores on the test or whatever. And on L2, we're going to put a kind of some different numbers. So 2, 3, 6, 5, 4, and 3. Okay. You too, Russell. See you, man. Have fun in Charleston. Oh, I think they just gave it to us. So they just said, oh, hold up. What did they say? Oh, I was reading the solution. Hold on. It says create 6 intervals of width 10 for the test scores and display a histogram. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Backtrack. So what we did just a second ago was we took the histogram that we had previously. Wish I had it up there. I'm sorry. I read the wrong thing. But basically, we were saying on each of those bars, how many times was it calculated? So from up to 55, we had 3 scores that were up to 55, including 55. From 56 up to 65, we had 4 scores that fell in that category. Does that make sense? So from 65 to 75, there was a total of 5 scores that fell in between there. Same thing, so on and so forth. So these are like, what it said was we want intervals of 10. So from 65 to 55 and so on and so forth, that would be the intervals that are there. And this is the amount of scores that fell within that range. Does that make sense? So from the lowest to 55, there were 3, 55 to 65, so on. Cool. So now what they want us to do is they want us to create a histogram to be able to utilize or see this. So we're going to go to graph again. And this time, probably see something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to, instead of doing just graph, because it's just going to be, it looks really funky. What we have not done is we have not brought frequency in yet, because now the frequency isn't 1, right? What is the frequency? Or there's 1, 6, right? 1 was 5, 1 was 4. Like it varied, right? And it was all based upon that second list. So what we're going to put in for frequency is not 1. We're going to put in, it actually was a range of 10, but we're going to put L2. Does that make sense? Because L1 is kind of the score. L2 is the frequency, or the amount of times that it occurred. So we're going to go down to frequency. And I don't know if you know how to put L2 in, but that second 2. It'll look something like that. And then you can just hopefully press graph. We might have to zoom stat it again, but we'll graph it. And then we'll go to zoom stat. I feel like that's weird. Am I wrong? Did you get something like that?
I didn't get that. I got that.
You got that? Lindsay? Jane, you didn't get that?
No.
Did you zoom stat yet?
Yes.
You want to just double check? Let's go to stat real quick and let's go to edit. Just make sure our numbers are good.
Okay, got it.
You get it there?
Yeah.
Was it something with your scores, you think?
Yes, I put 45 instead of 7.
Perfect. Good. Good, good. I just want to make sure we were all good there. Good. So when we go to graph, we should get something like this. So basically, this just means within that range, right? Within this certain range, this is the amount of times that it was calculated in that range. Okay? Are we good so far? Cool. Do y'all get histograms pretty good? Ish.
I don't know if I like understand them. I think doing them is fine. I have stuff like it.
Perfect. So I'll do one briefly. I'm not going to go through all the logistics. You just tell me what you know. So over here on the left side, this is like frequency. And we need to state that. And you'll realize like context is always king for like AP exams. On the bottom, this is where we would put like what we're solving for. So we could be talking about, speaking of money, right? Money for swim lessons or whatever we're talking about on this side, okay? Traditionally, we could start with 0. We could say this is anywhere from 0 to $10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and I'm making up the range, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and if you're Michael Phelps, maybe like 70, right? 60 to 70. But over here, this would be like, these are all the instructors that come to Swim Atlanta that charge a certain amount. This would be the number of people that would fall in between 0 and 10. So let's say there's 2 people that fall between 0 and 10. We're going to make a kind of something that goes up and down with that, right? Like a I don't want to say bar graph because a bar graph is different, right? But this would be what we would do here. Now from 10 to 20, let's say there was 1 person that fell in that category. From 20 to 30, let's say that's the majority of people, and that was like six of the people that work at Swim Atlanta in that location fall there. And then you start seeing that this is a histogram. So the reason why we use this is we can then see, I'm just making stuff up in terms of how many people, but you can start seeing that there's a distribution. There's some sort of data that we can describe using, say again?
Histograms?
This is a histogram. We can describe it. If I said describe this, you would describe it using what acronym? SOX, exactly. Spread, or shape, outliers, center, and spread, right? And so that's how we go to it. And we're able to see, hey, how is this data, how can we describe this, right? Now we're going to use that at some point, especially when we start comparing. And I think 1 or 2 of you said that earlier, like, what does it mean to compare? But at this point, we're just saying, this is what we call a distribution or how we see data. Now we're going to use that in order to either compare or, in this case, just be able to see, well, where are the most people charging for money per swim lesson in that context. Does that make sense? To help you see kind of where we're headed? And this is just doing it on the calculator, which again, you'll hardly ever have to do. Just wanted you to know how the intricacies of that. Okay? Cool. Good stuff. We are, and I forget we're still live. So if you're watching this, continue with us. Anything else on number 2, activity 2? Activity 3, did you have anything on that one there?
Can we just try doing one of the examples?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Again, when I did it, I don't know, now my thing is acting normal. It might have been that I had something where the y equals was, because I definitely had stuff right there. That might have been why every time I did it, it said error, even when I copied the numbers and stuff.
It's a little weird, isn't it? Like with the y equals, you won't put anything in y equals with stats. So now that your calculator's towards that, that should help. That should help a little bit. We can let's test it. Let's do, you want to just try example 1?
Yeah.
We'll walk through it. Oh, hold up. That just says find the median, right? Let's do this. I'll tell you what. Let's put in that data. I wish I wouldn't have deleted it because it had already been in there, hadn't it? But I did delete it. So let's put it back in real quick. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you a cheat code on how to find all of this. Okay? And now, literally, it will go all the way down. And we'll be able to do most of this together. We can delete both L1 and L2. Yes, Jane. That's perfect. Y'all pumped for the retreat? Senior year. Y'all remember when you were freshmen? I always laugh because I'm like, man, who's experienced like first week of high school is let's go away to a retreat and go do a rave. Like, I'm sure that's very intimidating. I can only imagine. Really? What made it that way, you think?
The rave, first of all, was the most fun night.
Is that when we broke the floor?
No.
That was like right before y'all. We broke the floor twice. Did you hear about that? It made it exciting, I will say. You think so? Was it the venue or was it the music? I did remember it did get cut short, I remember.
It was just like all
Yeah.
And when nobody knows what to do, like everybody's just pushing.
Well, I think Mr. Wilson is in charge of the playlist, which if there was any teacher that would be in charge of the playlist, he would be the best. And I think he wasn't last year.
I emailed him. Yeah, he said he didn't do the music for the retreat last year.
He didn't. So I'm gonna give you a cheat code. You ready for this? Okay, so first off, what is median? The middle number, right? Mean is average, right? So I'm gonna give you what is Q1, Q3. We'll talk again more about this later. I kind of jumped ahead of myself a little bit on this, which is only gonna help y'all, especially when you come in. But Q1, think of it as like 25%, like the first quarter. So it's the middle of the middle. Does that make sense? So if that's the minimum maximum and I'm in like the middle, I'm the median, that means that if it started at that, hold up, if you're looking at me, started over there, came to me, right? Q1 would be in the middle between the wall and me. Q3 would be where? Between that wall and me, right? So that's like the middle, we call middle 50%. So that's just context. So to find all this stuff, you can do that yourself and like list it, but you can actually find it on your calculator. So if you go to stat here and go to calculate, activity 3. Yeah, I'm kind of skipping a little bit of the part 1, part 2 because it's much easier to do it this way. And it gives you everything you need anyway, which is kind of nice. But if you go straight to stat, you see that 1 bar stats? That's one variable statistics. You're going to use that a lot. If you press enter right there on the calculate part, not on the edit part, and you just make sure it says L1, don't have to worry about the frequency, not a problem. And then calculate, you just put calculate, and there you go. Now, part of it is just understanding what the heck this absolutely means. Some of this stuff we don't have to worry about. Just a heads up, the first thing is always average. We're not going to learn the gang signs yet. We'll get to that later. But when you scroll down, you'll notice that it gives you a couple things, right? What about these right here? What do you notice?
What we were just talking about.
Yeah. So that's the first quarter or the 25th percentile, the 50th or the middle, and then the 75th percentile. So that's those three numbers there. See, that's how you find that. And I think that that's part 1 and part 2. We just or example 1 and example 2, we just dominated right there. That's it. The other parts of this, and what I'm looking for is, I'm seeing if they wanted us to do a what they call box and whisker plot. Did they say that?
Yes.
They say create a box plot or modify box plot. Okay. Just want to make sure how far they wanted us to go. Okay. So literally, once you find that, you can then go back to y equals. Once you have that list in, I'm sorry, second y equals unit where we were at. And instead of going to the plot 1, do you notice, have you ever done a box and whisker plot? Y'all remember that? Happened like a long time ago, which is crazy because stats, you're going to do a lot of stuff. You're going to be like, man, this is easy stuff in terms of just put it in the context. But you're going to make sure that that frequency is back to 1 again. And instead of being on your histogram, you're going to go to the one like right, I think it's to the right of it. You're just going to press enter and make sure that's highlighted there. You see that? And then afterwards, you can just push, should be able to push graph. Now you might have to do your zoom stat again. You kind of can see mine there, but then we can go to zoom 9, which is stat, and there's my box and whisker plot. And just so you know, and again, it's not necessary for you to know like the logistics. This right here, do you know what that means? This first number? The least value. Good. Yeah. So this is the lowest score on that test. What's this? The highest? What's that middle line? That's where I was, right? What is this? Q1 and? So that means what percent of the data is here? Good. The middle 50%. With 25 here, 25, 25, and 25%. So that's a box plot. So what if I said describe that distribution? What would you say on box plot? How would you go? How would you approach that? Oh, I like that. I like that. So what are you going to go into? You're right. You're going to go into the acronym SOX. Yeah. You see that? So same idea. You would just say, hey, it's approximately normal. Are there any outliers? That's kind of an unfair question because I haven't talked about that, but there aren't, because if there was, there'd be like a point way out here or way out here.
Should we zoom out to check for outliers or no?
That's actually a great point because I kind of said that, but technically, usually if you said zoom stat, it would take that into account. But just in case, that's actually a great point, Jaden. I would say just in case, let's see. And you can see once we did, there was nothing there. So it's approximately normal. And I love that LY word because that kind of softens it a little bit, right? They love that on the AP exam. The center is approximately here, and you would just say your median, or you could use it's approximately normal or symmetric. I would take probably median or mean. But since the median's here, you could state that too. So you have that for your center, no outliers. And what about your shape spread? Your spread.
I think that was one that we were getting kind of confused with.
Exactly. Now, again, standard deviation is another word that we'll get into later on that describes spread much better than range, right? Because range only gets the low value and high value, which isn't really, it's sufficient for right now. And you can state like, what is the range? And you could just say what number is there, maximum minus minimum. But standard deviation we'll go into much later. So
Is that the numbers like the 1.1, like 2.2, 2.6? Is that thing or no?
yes, you're exactly right. Did you do quiz 1.3?
No.
Okay. How do you know that?
We did an algebra too.
Okay, gotcha. Maybe on a lower.
Yeah, we just did like a couple of one week.
Very good. Yeah, we're gonna go into kind of more of the why behind it, and yeah, that'll be good. Cool, cool. Did y'all have anything else that you were concerned with?
So are we just bringing like this packet on the Monday after the retreat, or do we need to bring our notes too?
If you want to, I would just bring both after the retreat, and we'll describe that more in terms of that. But the way that I'm gonna, I'll grade them for accuracy, kind of sort of, but I'll be lenient on it. I'm not sure if I will give you a grade right on the spot because I'll grade them probably Monday night when you give them to me the following week. But I probably will just like highlight some things that are there. One thing I would say that a lot of people miss is when I say describe this distribution. We just did that. There was one thing I missed. Did you hear what I missed? Kind of a big thing in stats. Context, right? What are we talking about? So you have to establish that one time. So that's one thing that I would just make sure of is, and I think I said that on the podcast is, hey, context is king. So if we're talking about grades in the class, say that at the beginning before you describe it. Cool? Y'all rock. Thank you for coming in. Y'all, that's impressive that y'all came in today.
So we do the activities too, right? I mean, not do we do them, but do we 10 minutes?
So I would say this, I'm probably not going to, I'll probably just check it, like, did you do it? I recognize though that a lot of this, like the answers are there. There is a couple of them that I noticed that you might want to do because it's just practicing it. That's not going to be the main part of what I'm going to grade though. More or less, it's just making sure you walk through it for later so that you kind of have an idea of what you're doing with that stat, the one variable stat stuff and all that. So, good stuff. Thank y'all for coming by.
Okay, thank you.
And those that are on the podcast, we'll see you later. Have a good day. Lindsay, see you, Jaden. Have a good one.